When the mind shakes, you stand where the Creator stands, not above life, not outside it, but at the silent center from which all things emerge. This is not the kind of standing that uses force or strain. It is the posture of a soul that knows its world is already complete. In the stillness behind your thoughts, the finished creation already exists, waiting only for your acceptance. Neville Goddard taught that certainty is not the same as hope. Hope leans toward the future, straining to see if something will come. Certainty breathes in the present moment and whispers, "It is already here." When you live from this place, you are no longer chasing proof. You are living proof. But the pull of logic is strong. The mind, shaped by years of needing evidence, wants to measure progress, to see numbers and signs before allowing rest. You may feel the weight of this, checking your bank account, scanning your messages, searching the faces around you for confirmation. And when it doesn't appear as you expect, the mind begins its endless questioning. Is it working? Am I doing something wrong? You are not wrong. You are simply standing at the threshold between two worlds, the one you've been taught to trust, and the one your deeper self already knows is real. There is a hidden craving beneath all of this, the craving for permission to feel safe. Many people wait for the world to hand them that permission before they soften, before they exhale. But certainty is the opposite movement. It is the inner choice to rest before the world gives you a reason. In that rest, fear dissolves. The frantic search for signs quiets. You move from being a reactor, constantly adjusting to circumstances, to becoming the author of them. The stage lights of your attention shift from the problem to the reality you have already claimed. Greg Braden calls it, "The feeling is the prayer." This is not a metaphor. It is a description of how your biology responds to your inner state. When the heart and brain are coherent, your body stops broadcasting stress and starts sending a frequency of wholeness into the field around you. You become magnetic, not through effort, but through alignment. Thought alone cannot do this. You can think about abundance for hours, but without the feeling of already having it, the frequency does not change. The body remains in waiting mode. In this conversation, I will walk with you beyond logic into a place where your body, your breath, and your inner world align with the already finished creation. You will see why waiting for proof only delays the arrival of what you desire, and how to stand with such certainty that even the most painful situations can become raw material for transformation. Together, we will explore 10 living keys to this state, a state where you stop bargaining with reality and begin to inhabit it as its creator. And by the time we finish, you will know that the shift is not somewhere in the distance. It is here, now, already breathing through you. There is a quiet habit many carry without noticing. It is the habit of scanning the outer world for confirmation before allowing the inner world to rest. You wake up and check your phone for a message that will signal movement. You glance at your account, searching for a number that will let you breathe. You study faces for an expression that means it's going to be all right. And in those moments, your power slips into the hands of what you can see. The truth is, when you are looking for proof, you are already affirming that it is not yet here. You are not wrong for doing this. You have been trained to measure life by visible evidence. But the law of creation works in reverse. Life takes the shape of your inner knowing, not your outer checking. Neville Goddard taught that to wait for the world to show you what you already desire is to live in a state of doubt. It is like planting a seed and digging it up each morning to check if it has sprouted. You cannot live in the end and monitor its arrival at the same time. One cancels the other. The senses are loyal to the old story until the new one is fully accepted within you. When you insist on confirmation, you are silently telling your mind and body that the new reality is still in question. That vibration of "still in question" is what the field mirrors back to you. There is another way, one that feels almost like breaking a rule. Instead of asking the world to prove itself to you, you allow yourself to feel as if it already has. You walk through the day with the quiet conviction that reality is already bending to meet you, even if no sign has appeared. You speak as if you have been confirmed. You make choices from the end state, and your body starts to learn what it feels like to move without the tension of waiting. This is what I call flipping the burden. The burden of proof no longer sits on the world's shoulders. It sits on the vibration you carry. And when you carry it as already done, the outer proof is drawn to you like metal to a magnet. You may notice resistance rise up here. The mind will whisper, "But what if I'm fooling myself? What if I'm wrong?" That is the voice of the old pattern, the voice that has equated safety with certainty from the outside. Yet certainty is born on the inside first. It is a willingness to stand in a room no one else sees yet and to call it home. The world will meet you there, but only after you've stopped asking it to lead the way. When you stop waiting for proof, you step into the role of the one who creates the proof. And the moment you embody that, life begins to respond in ways that leave no room for doubt. Confidence is often misunderstood as the ultimate strength, but confidence depends on something that certainty does not: evidence of ability. Confidence says, I know I can do this because I've done it before, because I have the skill, because I've seen results. But what happens when you're facing a reality you have never touched before? Confidence begins to tremble, and you search for proof in past experiences to steady it. Certainty does not tremble because it is not built on skill, repetition, or proof. Certainty is built on being. It says, this is who I am, and because it is who I am, it is what must unfold. Neville Goddard's teaching to live in the end is not an invitation to pretend. It is an invitation to inhabit the identity of the one who already has the thing desired. This is not the same as acting a role. It is a deep acceptance of self-definition. When you live in the end, you stop measuring your readiness by your abilities or your progress. You stop asking, can I make this happen? And instead you rest in, it already belongs to me because it is me. Consider the one who enters a negotiation not as someone trying to close a deal, but as someone who already knows the deal is theirs. There is no rush in their tone, no strain in their posture. The energy is quiet, almost casual, because the outcome is already part of their reality. People feel that. They respond to it without always understanding why. The result is not born from persuasion. It is born from the natural gravity of identity. This is why so many fail to sustain what they momentarily manifest. They have a burst of confidence but have not shifted their identity. They try to hold on to an outcome with the same inner self that once believed it was impossible. Eventually, that self reclaims its old reality. Certainty is the protection against this collapse. It is a declaration to yourself that no matter what unfolds in the physical, you remain the one who already is. And from that unwavering center, the physical has no choice but to reorganize itself to match you. When you stop chasing the feeling of confidence and instead embody the knowing of certainty, something changes in the atmosphere around you. You are no longer trying to prove yourself to the world. You are no longer measuring your worth by results. You are living as the outcome, breathing as the outcome. And because the outer world is only a mirror, it reflects back the image you have chosen to be. The fear loop and how certainty breaks it. Fear is not just an emotion, it is a chemical command. When fear takes hold, the body floods with survival signals that tighten your focus and limit your vision. You begin scanning for threats, replaying what could go wrong, and in that state, the mind becomes blind to possibilities that were visible only moments before. The more you feed that cycle, the more it confirms itself. You see danger everywhere because your body is tuned to it. This is the fear loop, and it can run for years without you realizing you are inside it. Greg Braden has spoken about the way elevated emotions, like certainty, produce physiological coherence. When the heart and brain synchronize into a state that naturally supports clarity, creativity, and resilience. In this state, the body is no longer preparing to fight or flee. It is preparing to create. The chemistry of fear is replaced by the chemistry of alignment. Where fear sharpens your focus on problems, certainty opens your awareness to solutions. Neville Goddard understood this long before science caught up. His invitation was to live in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, not just to imagine the scene, but to let the body absorb it as reality. When you breathe as the version of yourself who already stands on the other side of the challenge, the body begins to produce the signals of safety and fulfillment now. This shift is not abstract. It is a tangible reprogramming of the very chemistry that shapes your behavior, your perception, and the opportunities you can recognize. Imagine aligning your breath with the rhythm of the self who has already arrived. You inhale, not as someone trying to escape fear, but as someone who knows the journey is complete. The breath becomes slower, deeper, more assured. The shoulders loosen. The mind stops darting between possible dangers and begins to rest in the stability of being. The body learns that safety does not depend on circumstances. It is generated from within. This is how certainty breaks the fear loop. It does not argue with fear, nor does it try to force it away. Instead, it replaces the entire environment in which fear thrives. In the presence of certainty, fear has nothing to attach to, no unresolved question to cling to. You move through life with the same ease as someone walking a familiar path, even if the terrain ahead is unseen. And as you carry that inner climate, life begins to organize itself around the steady pulse of your assurance. If this is resonating and you want to strengthen the certainty we're building here, check the pinned comment when you finish. What's waiting there will meet you exactly where you are and help you step even more fully into the reality you've already claimed within. Logic is a tool, and like any tool, it serves when used for the right purpose. But when it comes to transformation, logic often becomes a guard at the gate of your imagination, deciding which dreams are allowed in and which must be turned away. You might find yourself adjusting your vision to fit what seems reasonable, trimming away the edges of your desire so that it will appear believable to the part of you trained to only accept what can be explained. Yet the very essence of creation lives beyond explanation. Neville Goddard spoke of reason as the jailer of the imagination, because reason insists that what has not happened before cannot happen now. It keeps you tethered to the evidence of the past and calls anything beyond it unrealistic. But transformation demands a step into what is not yet visible, into what defies the patterns you've known. If you measure the possibility of your new life against the logic of your old life, you will keep arriving at the same conclusion, that it cannot be done. To move beyond logic is not to abandon intelligence, but to release its role as the final authority. It is to treat logic as a servant, not a ruler. You allow imagination to decide the destination and logic to help navigate the path once the direction is set. This inversion of roles changes everything, because the creative process begins not with what is probable, but with what is chosen. When you start noticing moments in your own life when the improbable unfolded, when something came together in ways you could not have planned, you begin to retrain your nervous system to accept the illogical as natural. These are the moments when the mind has to admit that it is not the sole architect of reality, that there is a deeper current at work. Every time you allow yourself to honor that current, you loosen the grip of logic over your vision. Transformation is not born from what makes sense to the old you. It is born from what resonates with the self you are becoming. The moment you choose to stop asking, "Is this realistic?" and instead ask, "Is this aligned with who I am?" you open the door to outcomes that reason alone could never have led you to. And once you've experienced the arrival of something that could not be explained, you realize that logic is useful only when it follows the heart, never when it tries to lead it. There is a way of giving that is not really giving at all. It is a transaction disguised as generosity. You offer time, energy, or love, but in the background, there is an unspoken ledger keeping score. You may not call it that, but you are waiting for an equal return, for proof that your offering was noticed, valued, and reciprocated. This is the posture of the one who still believes that supply is limited, that love or opportunity might run out if not measured carefully. It is a posture born of scarcity, and it anchors you to the very lack you are trying to escape. The stance of the Creator is different. The Creator gives because giving is part of their nature. The act itself is complete. It needs nothing back to validate its worth. This kind of giving is not reckless, nor is it rooted in self-denial. It flows from a sense of wholeness so deep that withholding becomes unnatural. When you give from this place, you are not diminishing yourself. You are demonstrating to your own consciousness that you live in a reality where there is always more to flow, more to create, more to receive. Neville Goddard's teachings remind us that what we accept as true within becomes fact without. If you act as the Creator, pouring out without fear of depletion, you are declaring that you already dwell in a reality of infinite supply. This is not about material exchange. It is about vibrational position. From the Creator's stance, you do not ask, "Will this come back to me?" You rest in the knowing that you cannot give without also receiving, because both are movements of the same energy. Consider the transformation that can occur in relationships when this shift happens. When one person stops measuring every gesture and begins to give freely, not in order to manipulate, but because it is who they have decided to be, the dynamic changes. Suspicion dissolves. Defensiveness softens. Space is created for genuine connection to reappear. The absence of keeping score makes room for trust to grow. When you give without needing return, you step into the frequency of the source itself. You become the well rather than the one anxiously waiting at the edge of the well for your turn to drink. And in that frequency, life begins to pour into you from directions you could never have arranged through calculation. It becomes clear that giving is not the opposite of receiving. It is the same breath, simply moving in and out through the one who knows they are never empty. Negativity is often treated as an intruder to be chased away, an enemy to be silenced. But suppression does not erase it. It only drives it underground, where it continues to shape your inner state in ways you cannot see. You might smile on the outside while quietly feeding a belief in lack, failure, or rejection on the inside. And because the outer world mirrors the inner one, that hidden current of resistance inevitably finds expression in your circumstances. Neville Goddard's work offers a radical alternative, not to ignore negativity, but to reclaim it. In his method of revision, an unpleasant memory or painful thought is not denied. It is recast into a scene that aligns with your chosen reality. By doing this, you are not pretending the original moment never occurred. You are choosing what meaning it will hold and what role it will play in the story you continue to tell. In this way, the energy once bound up in frustration or fear becomes the very fuel that propels your transformation. When you take a negative thought and reshape it as the starting point of a miracle, something profound happens in the body. The tension that once locked you into fight or flight begins to loosen. The mind sees that the story is not fixed, and the nervous system starts to respond as if the better outcome has already taken root. This is not only an emotional shift, it is a physiological one. You are literally reprogramming the signals that dictate how you think, feel, and act. Imagine a moment of deep disappointment, perhaps a conversation that ended in rejection. Instead of replaying it as proof of failure, you revisit it as if it concluded in your favor. You hear the words you wished had been spoken. You feel the relief and gratitude you would have felt, and you allow those sensations to saturate your present moment. With repetition, the original pain loses its weight, and the rewritten outcome begins to feel more real than the memory that once hurt you. In this way, negativity becomes raw creative material, ready to be shaped by your intention. What once seemed like proof that you were powerless transforms into evidence of your authorship. You stop fearing the arrival of difficult moments because you know they can be transmuted. And as this truth settles in, life feels less like something happening to you and more like something flowing through you, waiting for your choice of what it will become. Resistance is the mind's way of trying to control what it cannot trust. It is the tightening that happens when you believe you must force life into place or hold on to what you already have so it does not slip away. This tightening creates a tension that is felt not only in your thoughts but in your body. Your jaw clenches, your breath becomes shallow, and every part of you is on alert for what might go wrong. In this state, even the most beautiful vision feels fragile, because you are gripping it with the fear that it could vanish. Neville Goddard's approach shows that true creation does not come from force, but from acceptance. You claim the end as already yours, and then you let it be. Florence Scovel-Shinn expressed this in her reminder that what you resist persists. The harder you push against what you fear, the more energy you feed into it. Resistance keeps you entangled with the very reality you are trying to leave behind, because your attention is still fixed upon it. Non-resistance is not passivity. It is an active release of the need to control the timing, the method, or the form in which your desire appears. It is the choice to keep holding the inner vision without the strain of demanding when or how it will come. This choice changes the atmosphere inside you. Where there was tension, there is now spaciousness. Where there was urgency, there is now trust. And in that trust, your energy begins to match the frequency of the fulfilled desire. Imagine your desire resting in your hands, not as something you must cling to, but as something so certain it could not slip away. Your grip loosens not because you care less, but because you know more deeply that it is already done. You can breathe again. You can live again. And in that breathing space, the pathways for its arrival open without your interference. The shortcut to certainty is not in doing more, but in releasing the invisible strain of trying to force the outcome into being. When you let go of resistance, you create room for life to deliver what you have already claimed. You move from wrestling with reality to walking beside it. And in that harmony, the things you once chased begin to approach you naturally, drawn by the ease of your alignment. There are moments in life when change seems to arrive suddenly, almost without warning. One day everything looks the same, and the next an opportunity appears. A door opens or a solution falls into place in a way you could never have planned. While it may seem like these shifts are random, they often follow a very specific inner event, a complete and unquestioned snap into certainty. This is the heart of the two-day shift principle. Neville Goddard often described how the outer world reflects the inner state, and that the reflection can change as quickly as the state itself does. When you abandon all mental struggle and fully inhabit the end you desire, the field around you begins to rearrange. This rearrangement does not always take months or years. Sometimes it happens in hours. What takes time is not the outer change. It is the decision to stop wavering inside. There are countless stories of people who carried the same desire for years without results, only to see it materialize within days after they released the habit of doubt. The breakthrough is not caused by new effort, but by new alignment. When you give yourself fully to the state of the wish fulfilled, the tension that was holding the old reality in place dissolves. In its absence, the new reality moves in swiftly, as if it had been waiting just outside the door. The challenge is that certainty without conditions feels unnatural at first. The mind wants to check the horizon, to see signs before it commits. But the two-day shift principle works in the opposite order. The signs follow the state, not the other way around. When you maintain unwavering certainty for even a short, focused span of time, you broadcast a frequency that reality cannot ignore. To live this is to experiment with full surrender to the identity you have chosen, without checking for proof. It is to immerse yourself in the feeling that it is already done, and refuse to step out of it, no matter what the senses say. When you hold that frequency without interruption, the outer world begins to move with a speed and precision that feels almost impossible. And when it happens, you understand that the delay was never in the universe. It was only in your willingness to stop stepping in and out of the state you claimed. You cannot sustain certainty about an outcome you do not believe you deserve. You might hold it for moments, even days, but if your self-image is still rooted in the idea that such a reality belongs to someone else, the certainty will slip away. It is not that the desire is wrong. It is that the identity holding it has not yet matched it. The outer world may begin to shift, but if the inner self remains bound to the old story, the change cannot last. Neville Goddard's answer to this was simple yet profound. Assume the identity now, and the circumstances will catch up. The identity is not a role you play for others. It is the truth you accept about yourself in the privacy of your own consciousness. When you see yourself as already living the life you desire, already embodying the qualities and worthiness that life reflects back, you remove the inner contradiction that keeps you oscillating between belief and doubt. There is a difference between imagining yourself in a new reality and deciding that you are the kind of person who naturally lives there. The first can feel like fantasy. The second becomes an anchor. The body responds differently when you speak to yourself as the fulfilled version of you. Your posture shifts. Your tone changes. The small, unconscious choices you make throughout the day begin to align with the life you have claimed. This is not performance, it is congruence. One of the simplest yet most transformative practices is to meet your own reflection as the self you have chosen to be. You look into your own eyes, not searching for flaws or evidence of progress, but speaking as the one who has already arrived. At first, it may feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable. But with repetition, the old image begins to fade, replaced by the presence of the identity you have been cultivating. Certainty is not simply a feeling about the future. It is the natural state of one who knows who they are. When self-image and desire are aligned, certainty becomes effortless. You are no longer trying to convince yourself or force belief. You are living as the outcome, and life, unable to contradict the truth you hold within, arranges itself to match the person you have become. Many confuse certainty with control. They imagine that to be certain is to grip the desire tightly, to monitor it constantly, to make sure nothing interferes. But this is not certainty. It is anxiety disguised as determination. True certainty has no sharp edges. It does not strain or demand. It is a soft, steady knowing. The same way you know that the sun will rise tomorrow. You do not pace the room waiting for it, and you do not check the sky every few minutes to see if it is coming. You simply live in the calm assurance that it is already on its way. Neville Goddard's teachings point to this relaxed state of fulfillment. When you dwell in the end, you are not forcing yourself to hold the vision with rigid discipline. You are allowing the vision to hold you. The body loosens. The breath deepens. There is a quiet joy in moving through the day because you are no longer living to get somewhere. You are living from the place you have already arrived. The difference is felt in the heart. Pressure is heavy. It compresses you. Love is expansive. It makes room for more. When you are certain in the way love is certain, you feel a natural openness toward life. You are not guarding the desire as if it might be stolen. You are sharing its presence with everything you do. This openness draws people, opportunities, and ideas toward you without effort, because love radiates while pressure contracts. Think of sitting in a train, knowing it will take you exactly where you intend to go. You are not leaning forward in the seat, scanning the track ahead. You might look out the window, enjoy the scenery, read a book, or rest your eyes. The journey is part of the experience, and there is no impulse to rush it because the arrival is certain. In this way, certainty becomes an atmosphere you carry, not a task you maintain. When you live in certainty that feels like love, you no longer drain yourself trying to make it happen. The path unfolds with a grace that seems almost invisible until you look back and see how naturally everything aligned. And when you reach the moment you once desired, it will feel less like something that finally arrived and more like something that had been with you all along, quietly shaping the way you moved, breathed, and lived. When you stop looking for signs, you become the sign. This is the essence of Neville Goddard's reminder that creation is finished. You are not here to chase possibilities scattered across the horizon. You are here to select, to inhabit, to live from the reality you have already chosen. In this way, life becomes less about pursuit and more about recognition. You begin to notice the quiet ways in which the world has always been ready to mirror back the truth you hold inside. Greg Braden speaks of how the universe responds to the emotional frequency you consistently occupy. This means that your life is not reacting to occasional bursts of belief but to the tone you hold most of the time. When that tone is certainty, soft, unwavering, and rooted in love, you send out a signal that shapes the field around you in ways the mind cannot measure. The frequency does the work. It arranges, aligns, and draws what is yours into view without the need for strain. Certainty is not arrogance. It is not declaring that you are above life or immune to its movements. It is alignment, an unshakable resonance with the version of yourself who already lives the life you desire. From this place, challenges do not mean failure. They become passing weather over a landscape that is already yours. You walk with a steady heart, knowing that the outer picture will always match the inner stance. For the next 48 hours, let yourself live, as though nothing could go wrong. Not because you are trying to manipulate events, but because you are standing in the truth that the end has already been written in your favor. You are not waiting at the threshold of possibility. You are seated inside it, looking out through its windows, moving through its halls. And when you do this, you discover something profound. The desire you thought you were reaching for was already with you. You have not been searching for the door to open. You have been standing in the room the entire time. All that remained was to realize where you were and to live from that knowing until the rest of the world caught up. If this has spoken to something in you, there is one more step you'll want to take. Look at the pinned comment. That's where the next shift begins.